And welcome everyone. I'm Ritika. I'm going to be your anchor for tonight. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, but their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. That was an excerpt from Khalil Gibran's On Children, and how truly fitting it is. Today, we will dive into a conversation to understand a multidisciplinary and integrated approach to education that is relevant in the current scenario. And that is something that we need to quickly adopt as educators and as parents. Firstly, we will explore the different philosophies within the domain of education. We will gain insights into global perspectives in the context of 21st century skills from educators whose everyday work is integrating these new and holistic approaches to education, moving the field of education away from the factory style industrial era approach to one that is guided by the heart and guided by the immense potential present in the child. I hope after this conversation, each one of us here is able to feel empowered to make a well informed choice. And I hope for the educators, it shows a newer perspective and opens an uncharted world to explore. And I hope for the younger audience, it sets the tone apart from what we were conditioned to believe is education. And for us all, I hope we are able to tap into our inner child and learn what is best for that person and use that as a North Star to look after all the other children of the world and of the future. For every panelist here, it is their sincerest endeavor, as both parents and educators, to provide a warm, nurturing environment for their children to grow and achieve their highest potential. And I'm so excited for what's lined up, and I'm only honored to be part of this game-changing conversation. I think we're all pretty curious to know and enthusiastic to know who are these revolutionary educators, these revolutionary men and women. So without further ado, let me introduce them. Our first panelist has 15 years of experience working with children as a Montessori teacher in Shishu Griha Montessori High School. Later, she spent 6 years consulting in Montessori and pre-primary school and 15 years in training teachers. At present, she is a teacher trainer, consultant, and parent advisor and runs Sparsh Montessori. With over 30 years in the field, our panelist, Sujata Kumar, has a deep trust in the method and is now taking it online to interact with parents where the method can be, we can make the most out of the method with whether there are materials present or not. Welcome, Sujata. I feel so honored to be able to pick your mind for a few minutes today and to dive into all your years of experience. Thank you so much for joining us. You're muted.
Thank you for inviting me, and I am honored. And thanks, Unalome, and the team that works behind. And I'm glad to be here with the brains to be picked.
Oh, that's so sweet. Our next panelist has 17 years experience in running Simply Fun Preschool and designing its philosophy and curriculum. Malini Rao has conducted teacher trainings in early childhood related topics across many cities. She and her team are currently running a successful homeschooling program for preschoolers. She has a master's in statistics and has worked in media planning in advertising for 10 years when she decided to move into early childhood education in 2002, which seemed to be her calling at that time. This pull in this field was so strong that she decided to start her own preschool to implement her ideas. And she was so passionate about the whole process of setting up and running preschool that it became her life. Even after 17 years, she continues to work with the same fervor and energy. Welcome, Malini, to the panel. I'm so intrigued by your work with our last conversation especially, and I cannot wait for us to gain such powerful insights with our conversation today.
Thank you, Ritika. Thank you for inviting me here.
Our next panelist is committed to make a difference in the lives of children and the world at large. Having worked in the domain of early childhood care and education over the last 2 decades, today she finds it extremely interesting to traverse the bridge that links learning in the early years right through young adulthood. Her ongoing research assignments are related to the function of play in early years, the role of PYP, Primary Years Program, transdisciplinary framework, in laying the appropriate foundation for 21st century knowledge and skills. A heartfelt welcome to Kalpana Das. It's an honor to have you here, and I cannot wait to learn so much about your vast experience in the field.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. And, at such a beautiful time, I always like to introduce myself with this beautiful quote by Rabindranath Tagore, which is, since we believe in light. So a lamp cannot continue to burn in its own flame. A lamp cannot light the life of another until it continues to burn in its own flame. And that's what I truly believe in. So I cannot continue to teach until I continue to learn. And we have over here so many of us who also train teachers. And you would all agree with me that learning to teach and teaching to learn is what this entire education process is all about. And I continue learning so much from all of you. So thank you. Thank you for having me here.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for that. What a lovely way to introduce yourself as well. It's beautiful. Lastly, our last panelist for tonight, joining our conversation today is Gangadhar Sridhar, who is a full-time traveler and a road schooling dad of twin daughters. Aged 10, they have woven their family around travel and yoga. They are based in Hyderabad. He and his family practice unschooling and road schooling in Northeast India. After having quit his former job, he advertises his family through his WhatsApp status. His daughter's education focuses on learning life skills through travel. Welcome, Gangadhar. This is so exciting. Your valuable and unique perspective to the conversation is something I extremely look forward to. It's such an honor that you're here.
Hello, Ritika. Thanks for that warm welcome. And I am right now somewhere in the Northeast with an Assamese family trying to curate some road schooling concepts for my own daughters and for other families. I'm extremely happy to join here. Thanks for the opportunity.
And I hope that today we can talk a little bit about that as well. That sounds exciting and new and something that I have never heard personally. All our panelists come from niche areas within the broad field of education, and they're diverse from each other. I would love to know how each of us can add to each of our perspectives today. With that said, I think we should move right into the first round and the first question of the first round. We'll move in this order. We'll go with Sujata and then go to Malini, Kalpana, and then Gangadhar. The first question is just to kickstart the conversation and to lay the foundation. If you could just take some time to explain your philosophy behind your approach to education and to educating children. Sujata, take the stage.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so your philosophy sounds a bit strong. It is the Montessori philosophy. I have to admit that this is the only field that I know. Because as a child, as a student myself, I had no clue what I was doing in the school. I knew I had to go and come back till 5th standard. I had no clue. So once I had my children looking around for school, I stumbled upon a Montessori school called Shishu Viha. It's still there. I mean, I stumbled some 35 years ago. And that led to the start of my journey. It is such a beautiful thing that I want to say this here because what I was introduced to as Montessori is what brought me into this field. And I realized why, as a child, I never understood what was happening in school because I was not that kind of learner, if I may use the word. So what is Montessori all about? I think quite a few of you may have an idea. And we speak about modern education method. Let me give the disclaimer that this is around 115 years old. Okay. So, but having said that, it is still as live as the time when it was started. And it has lasted so long and quite strongly, I should say. So that says something about the method. So I like to start with saying that people say that my child also went to school and you also went to school. You are turned out fairly well. What is so great about Montessori? So only sentence that we like to say is learning with joy. That sets the tone for your learning lifelong. I think some of us with experiences something like mine, uh, learning was never a joy, I have to tell you. Only thing that saved me, only thing that made me today what I am is I feel what my mother did for me. Giving that freedom, giving that acceptance. I was valued as a child. I was never valued for my marks. Second or third standard, I remember going back very excitedly to mom to say that last time I was sixth, now I'm 11th. I was sincerely happy, and my mother never crashed that to ground. I had to realize, okay, what had happened that time. So I have to say that kind of background definitely helped. So coming to Montessori, I am in the field of working with 3 to 6, but being in the training, we have to study quite a bit, and I think that's what cemented my trust in the method. It basically, if I put this thing is, it caters to the child's need. Mainly 3 to 6, I'll talk about, maybe a line or two about, because there is, she had plans, she was planning university when she passed away. Anyway, university is quite like Montessori, you can choose your subjects and all that. But understanding the child's development, the needs of the child and answering the needs, on that foundation lies the Montessori method. So when you look at the 3 to 6 age group, movement, language, these forms the crux of the child's work in the Montessori. Child is not expected to sit in one place. In fact, if you visit a Montessori environment, you will see there are shelves all around the environment full of materials. And these are materials are specific with a purpose for each material. People generally ask what's the student teacher ratio in your preschool, especially in preschool, people ask. And people say 5 is to 1, 10 is to 1, and then we said 1 is to 250. Okay, because those 250 materials are the true teacher for the child, not us. Our task is just to take the material, the child is there, which material does the child need, put them together. We say that there is a link that we create between the child and the material. That is our only task. So that's why we are facilitators. It is a child-centric method. The child is at the center of this, the progression. There is no adult saying that this is the curriculum, this lesson on this day and all that. So what happens is we follow the child, very basic. Of course, if the child needs more time, we give more time. If the child needs stimulation, we give more stimulation. That's why it doesn't spread so much, because Montessori is very trained person based. Because if you are not trained, you may not be able to use the materials in the proper way. So there are these materials, you have the environment. If you look at the Montessori classroom, there won't be anything in the classroom. And another wonderful thing that happens is, my child comes to your class in this June, and he is going to stay here for 3 years with you. And parent is already worried that what will I tell the others, that my child has gone to LKG? No, he is still with Sujata auntie in the same old classroom. He is not moved at all. What is happening there? This is a mixed age group. 3 to 6, Montessori, all classrooms are mixed age group. If you find somebody saying that in this 3 to 4 is there and in this section 4 to 5 is there, you know it's not a Montessori. Because so much peer learning happens. So basically, we are there only to provide the environment and to show the child the activity. We are there to guide. I won't use the word guide also, but see that the development is on path. Is the child getting what he needs? So that is all our task is. Everything is, the learning happens with the material, with the friends. So, and another thing, if you notice, the children do not sit still. In a traditional school, conventional school, teachers, most of the time is spent in how shall I make the child sit. In the Montessori environment, the child is always on the move. Of course, when the child is working, he is capable of concentrating. He is able to lose. In fact, the children concentrate at home also. But we don't realize it. We think he's not listening, not paying attention, just being too, careless and all that. But no, that child is able to concentrate. So that's another discovery, that this child can concentrate. But of course, we have to have the right environment for the child. So Montessori is, what Dr. Montessori discovered was a method of education. And she took 22 years to say, this is a method of education. She did so much research, so much so that she made discoveries about the child, the nature of the child, and child development. There are many psychologists who have written about child development, and each one's classification is different. But at a certain age, I realized that each one is describing the same child with the same kind of needs. Having said that, what she has done is she has reached this via observing, and then she has classified this slightly differently. So 3 to 6 is one group, 6 to 12 is the next group. Okay, and then 12 to 18 are famous adolescents. One thing she discovered is birth to 6 and 6 to 18, so 12 to 18. These two phases are very busy, lot of work happening. So it's very important to provide the right help to the right child at the right time. So right help at the right time, and also freedom within limits. This freedom leads to the child becoming more and more independence is another thing that we really look strongly. Any material that we show to the children, the child should be able to do it on his own. So what is happening? Already there is a foundation of independence laid for the child. So how does that happen? Because this child is working at his development, at his own pace, and with the right kind of help. So there is no pushing, there is no, in fact, I like to say that there is pulling in the Montessori environment. Because you got the older one who is doing number work or language work, and movable alphabet is a material. I also want movable alphabet. You would have seen at home. The older one tries to go to school, the younger one tries to go to school. It's like that. So these older children are pulling the younger one. I don't have to push. Children don't work for 2 months. They are sitting, but they are sitting and observing, and the holidays come. After that, it is beautiful to watch them rush to the work. They know 2 months I did not get, and something is crying within them. So they are there with the material. So, okay, let me say that these materials are special material. These materials have to be offered in a specific way. There is a sequence to it. That's where the training, and these materials are of no use if I don't accompany it with the freedom. If I don't accompany it with the independence. And therefore, there are so many other parameters that come in. It's simply beautiful because it is catering to the child's development. Do you know that we build our capacity to concentrate in the first 6 years? Not in 8th standard when we sit on the child's head to sit and study. I left my job to sit with you. Why don't you concentrate, learn to concentrate? That's not the time to concentrate.
We've all felt that.
Yes, it is a painful thing. Each one's style is different. I start from the table to the bed to under the bed, and then again lying down on everything on the floor, and then I would get back on the table, and I used to get roasted for that.
Yeah.
I thought I realized that's my style of working. I cannot sit in one place and concentrate. That's my style of it. This is what is followed in the Montessori. You will see children lying down and reading a book, or lying down and watching the other child's work. I don't want to do work, I'm watching. There is learning in that also.
Wow.
So, yeah, I can keep on talking.
And we will dive so deep into everything because that, for me, myself as well, I am the youngest child in the house and I have had that experience where I'm pulled to learn because my siblings learn so much.
Yes, yes.
I think that is the perfect segue to add on with Malini's experience as well, with Malini's, and then move on with the rest of the rounds because this is seeming like a conversation that just will not end. I have so many follow-up questions. I have noted them down. Malini, are you able to share your screen?
Yes, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. So I would like to just, I have a couple of slides it's going to just help me to explain what are the things, what are our beliefs and what do we do in our school. So let me just share this. Okay, you're able to see? Okay.
Yeah, I'm able to see it.
Okay. Yeah, so Simply Fun Preschool, we believe in doing small things with great love. And what I would like to start with this, education cannot be effective unless it helps a child open up himself to life, said by Maria Montessori, a quote I'm using. What we do in our school is our inspiration we have drawn from both Montessori as well as Waldorf. I wouldn't say that we are a Montessori school. I wouldn't say we are a Waldorf school. Because like Sujata shared, somewhere, what we get in our childhood, the school that we have attended, the way our parents have been with us, I think that plays a big role in, what you want to do. Because I would like to just very quickly mention here that I spent 10 years in advertising. And when I said, now enough of it, I want to do something else. And when me and my husband were brainstorming, okay, what is it that you want to do? I said, I want to set up a school. And why do you want to set up a school? Because I said, most of the good schools that you see, it is all so expensive. And what happens to those middle class people? Aren't they supposed to also get some good quality education? And then what is the kind of education that I underwent when I was in LKG? I would just cry. I would not I would not want to go to school at all. I would be waiting for my mother to come and pick me up. And I said, I don't want a school like that. So I had some, ideas, something which I was imagining how school should be. And so I thought that, okay, let me first start with the preschool years, and then maybe I can think of the higher classes. But then it's been 17 years and I'm just stuck with this age group. So there's so much to learn, so much more to learn. I mean, it's just not ending at all. And and there is so much. I mean, in my first year itself, I did my Montessori training, and there was so much I learned from there, and it was a big inspiration. So that their materials that they use, it's amazing. I mean, amazing is not the word at all. I mean, the way children enjoy, like Sujata has already talked about it, and the way children can learn through that on their own, it's just amazing. And so we use mainly for math and language, we take the framework which I learned in my Montessori training, and we use that. And then I attended so many of Waldorf workshops, and the framework that Waldorf provided for storytelling, for creating, rhythms, for the creativity, for handwork, that was again so amazing. So I could not let go of that. So what do I do? It was so confusing. Then should I do completely Montessori? Should I do completely Waldorf? But no, I mean, I said some of the things which I have learned in Montessori, I can't let go of that. So I decided to, do a middle path, and that's been my inspiration, both, Montessori as well as Rudolf Steiner. Maria Montessori and Rudolf Steiner have been my inspiration for whatever work we are doing in Chimply Fun. And some of the beliefs that I would like to add here, because they play a big role in, finally why I didn't want to do completely this or that and why I chose the middle path. So children need to feel school as their second home, a place which gives them a lot of love, care, attention. Children can take time to settle in a new environment. We are in no hurry at all to tell children, okay, 1 week is up, okay, you have to be fine with the environment, nothing of that sort. They take their own time. Children need to be exposed to different art forms, music, rhythm, dance, painting, handwork. Children's energy needs to be channelized through physical play. They need to just play, just have free play every day, at least for half an hour. And, there are so many things that children can do in school that, sometimes I feel the 3 hours, 4 hours is just not enough. I feel that, we should have school for 5 hours, 6 hours, and there'll be enough for them to do in school. And I feel, and I've seen children very happily stay in school. If we, think of having for 5 hours or 6 hours, we could have easily done that. In fact, we were planning to do that when pandemic struck. For our 2021 academic year, we were planning to have a longer duration school. Of course, maybe the government wouldn't have let us do that. But then we would have given it some other name, and we were planning to do that because there's so much to do. Children need to listen to lots of stories every day because stories are a great way to learn so many things in that age. Children need to develop their creativity and imagination. Again, there are a lot of activities which can be done, for this. And so I so firmly believe that this is very, very important for children. And not only that, children need to also develop mindfulness from a very young age. And we have, a very simple way of doing this is we end our rhythm for the day by something called a silence time. So, the very small ones, they just lie down and the sleep fairy comes and wakes them up. So one by one, the sleep fairy will come and wake them up with a very soft cloth on their face, and then they wake up and go so quietly. And the older children do their silence time slightly differently. They maybe chant something, or they say their saregama, and very, very gently, and then slowly they get up and go. So the silence time is, I feel, very, very important to develop mindfulness from a very young age. It's a small, very small beginning. And very importantly, as a mix of both Montessori and Waldorf, I feel that children need time to work independently, very, very important. And at the same time, they should know how to work in a group as well. Circle time activities, where you need to sit and listen. It's not that always, you get to do what you want to do. You need to also wait for your turn. So those are very, very important things for children to learn right from this age. And so working time, independent working time, as well as group working time is important to be built into the rhythm. And that's our belief, and that's what we try to do. And above all, less is more. We want to inculcate this habit of less is more in children. Just with few things, you can do so many different things. And we keep also telling parents about this, so that also, becomes, we believe a lot in this. And to sum it up, with all these beliefs, the 3 R's that we follow is rhythm, repetition, and reverence. So these 3 things become a very important to the kind of rhythm that we set for the children, and the repetition without getting bored. We do the repetition. Children, of course, don't get bored to do the repetition. And how do you build the aspect of reverence into them? Even if they see a small ant, the natural thing is to just go and stamp it. So how do you build that reverence? For the smallest of the pebble or the stick, how do you build that reverence for children? So that becomes part of the learning when they come to school, and they have lots of fun, for the 3 hours and 4 hours that they spend in school. So that is the kind of, the approach that we follow at Simply Fun. Yes, Ritika, over to you.
I think there's many concepts many words especially that you said that I think we'll be revisiting a lot in our conversation today, like stories and reverence, mindfulness, these kind of things. And I think let's ask Kalpana to add on.
Okay, wow, this has made me very nostalgic. Early years, going back to when I started my own preschools. So, shifting backgrounds completely, learning process, as I called it, the journey of learning. With a background in counseling, psychology, and law, I decided to pursue my early childhood care and education. Ended up teaching at the Teachers Training College when I was about your age, Ritika. So it doesn't matter, I wasn't even married. And I was teaching the readiness subjects at the Bombay University, got married. And when my son was 1.5 years is when I used to work with Lena, Kangaroo Kids, set up curriculum. And when my son was 1.5 years, so I'm applying the context of being a mother as well as an educator. And I started Kangaroo Kids in Bangalore, the 3 schools, to be with my son and to learn with him, for him, with him, all of it. And we started a very interesting concept, which takes you back actually to a parent-child interaction program. A lot has been said. I'm going to just encapsulate what Sujata and Malini have so beautifully said to bring forth the concept of a multidisciplinary approach, which is, while the process is as important as the goals. Right? So we have an aim in mind. The first 5 years of a child are most crucial, says Eric Erickson, right? In terms of the development of the child. So while we focus on holistic development, which is your motor skills, fine motor and gross motor, cognitive development, emotional development, social development, and creative development, while all domains are important, it is equally important to, like Malini said, to enjoy the process of that, which is through inquiry, which is through sensory play, experiencing things. What do I mean by a multi-sensorial environment? It is, we learn through 5 senses, right? Through, which is your audio, visual sense of smell, taste, and touch, all 5. So that's what would go into holistic development and a multidisciplinary approach. Of course, all of these approaches are very well rooted in theories. Like we know, when you talk about your Waldorf and Steiner, you talk about Froebel, who spoke about the process of play, right? The Maria Montessori. So while our approaches are rooted in theory, Piaget's developmental stages, for example, we need to have the context, apply those needs, the milestones, so that as educators, we understand what we need to take the child to. Having said that, the process of inquiry through play, the process is as important, which is what forms these different approaches. So that's what comes, brings me to, again, fast forwarding a bit, 16 years, ran my schools. And when my son was in grade 10 in Aditi Malya, I really wanted for him to explore the IB program. And when he went off to UWC Pearson College to do his IB, I actually sold my brand and I shut down my schools after 16 years because I decided I would like to continue learning in the field of education. And my most beautiful concept of learning and curriculum development, understanding by backward design. So when I saw what Sumer was doing with his IB, learner profiles, they want them to become reflective. They want them to they go by the skills, learner profile. And I said, this is interesting. If this is what we choose to create, then let's plan backward. If this is what we want to create, then this is how we're going to do it. And if we're anyway going to start, why not take it to the early years? Which is why I got back to studying, and I've just completed my master's in IB education with the University of Bath, which is what brings me to our exact concept of 21st century skills. Currently, we're doing research on curriculum by backward design. So if you are familiar with the World Economic Forum, they have come out with this Future of Jobs report, for example, okay? 2022 Future of Jobs report by World Economic Forum published talks about what are the jobs that are going to be available for our youth. So what are the requirements of the workforce? Now it's very simple. If these are the jobs that are required, then we need to break it down. What are the skills that we need to empower our youth with to be able to take on those jobs, right? So that's how they came up with, again, backward design. So if we're talking about the skills, we have, as educators, I'm sure everybody knows, we talk about the 21st century skills now, which is our goal, namely the 6 C's. So you have creativity, critical thinking. So when Malini said, so these are our aims, right? Along with structured learning, we need to also give the children opportunities for creativity. So let's work backward. Creativity, communication, critical thinking, collaboration, citizen, and character. These are our 21st century skills. If that's what we want to create, then let's take it down to our schools, our education systems, and let's start early in the early years. So I think I hope I've been able to give you a context of understanding by design and 21st century skills and our approaches to education. And yes, it starts in the early years.
Absolutely, you really have. And I can see that in the curated questions round, we're going to get into that even more, and even everyone else's approaches as well. I'm so excited for that. Lastly, we'll have Gangadhar's input on this. Joey?
So Gangadhar is in a remote place in Northeast India, and he's getting disconnected. So for his introduction, I will be playing a short video.
Can't hear the audio, Joanna.
Joanna, can you hear me? Gangu here, Gangadhar.
Yes, tell me, Gangadhar.
Yeah, I think right now I'm connected. I can talk because there is no audio.
All right, okay. I'll stop sharing then.
All right, Gangadhar, we're so excited to have your input in this question before we move on to the next round.
Yeah, so I'll be brief as possible. If I get disconnected, please go ahead and move along. So my name is Gangadhar, and my wife is Ramya, and we have twin daughters who are going to be 11 in a few weeks, and they are Amulya and Ananya. And we have been road schooling them. I'll come to what road schooling is. Many people just flip and they hear this word. My wife and I, we both have quit our normal jobs, and I'm into full-time travel, and I enable other people to travel in the Northeast. And my wife, she is into meaningful and slow yoga and mudras. So with this background, We have chosen the Northeast, like Assam, Meghalaya, Manipur, Nagaland, Sikkim, Bhutan, Nepal, those areas where we feel that it is a very advanced society. Not that the rest of India is not advanced, but there are certain things that we like about these places. And we started traveling when our kids were about 6 months old. And now they're going to be 11 years. So that means we have an experience of about 10 and a half years traveling with young kids. And we did not know in the beginning that this is called road schooling. Very recently, about 2.5 years ago, somebody told us when we were deciding to unschool them. And I will also tell about what unschooling is because there is these words are very misleading. And when we decided to unschool, somebody told us that, oh, what you're doing is road schooling. Oh, thought. And it was a very catchy phrase, so we also held to that. Use a word called as Jivana Sikshana or education for a good life. That's the term that we use, which is quite not misleading. Let me begin our it's not an anecdote, just a story, I would say. That mango is the best fruit. It's the king of fruits. And they said it looks good, people want mangoes, and that is what success is. And so they thought that even if you have a banana sapling, okay, I'm comparing a banana sapling.
Looks like he's been disconnected. So I will continue with the video.
Yes.
Okay.
Am I back online?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes, you're back.
Yeah, can I go ahead?
Yes, yes, please. I mean, we just started to get into very interesting parts.
Yeah. Yes. So I was talking about a mango being considered very successful. It's the king of fruits. And someone decided that even if we have a banana sapling, that is, I am referring to the kids that we have, by giving them extra sunlight, by giving them extra fertilizers, by giving them extra water and whatnot, we thought that we can make a banana sapling give mangoes at the end of 10 plus 2 years, right? So this is a small comparison that I can give you, and we all know that's not possible. A banana tree or a sapling is going to go into a banana tree. Whatever we do.
I think we should move on to the next segment. And I will be picking Gangadhar's mind slowly as we move in the conversation. As we will just keep moving with the time. We'll move into the next round now, and we'll play the video maybe perhaps to the end, or we'll see how it goes. Let's be spontaneous today. Firstly, it's the curated questions round. In this, I will be directing some questions, but it is more than welcome if panelists have something to add to each other's value, to each other's opinions. I think we'll start with the first question with Sujata. What have you experienced in your years of experience teaching and even training like teachers and parents? What is the most preferred style of learning and what's the most prominent style of learning among children?
See, I have reached a place of training people. So I have studied with the 15 years of experience. It comes very strongly. So definitely for a younger child, it is by hands-on work that you know. And one of the discoveries in the training was that even my trainees who are 25 to 35 to 38 years of age, when they see the materials, when they handle the material, it makes so much more sense than just talking about it. And so definitely, I think as human beings, and we are also workers by nature. We are at present in the stage of being Homo sapiens, but we were Homo laborans, just the human being that works. So that's a core. So work is an inescapable part of our this thing. So hands-on work, definitely. And Kalpana was talking about the five senses. We talk about 10 senses. So there is something more, very important in education. I will not talk about others, the muscular sense, especially at the younger age. Even older children, I think they do well with hands-on experience before. What Gangadhar is doing with his children is simply amazing. The children are having that experience. So for me, it is even auditory learner, it can help. So kinesthetic in my this thing is very strong.
Wow. I have a follow-up question. Even if there are no materials, as mentioned in your bio, can you explain a little bit about that as well? How is it that if there are no experience, if there are no materials, how is it that, yeah, you
Let
can
me
think
clarify.
creatively? Yeah.
Let me clarify that especially the 3 to 6 age group, there is something called exercises of practical life. Basically, what is mommy doing? The same activities. Of course, step by step. It's not, I don't give everything together. Readiness. So stage by stage, it is going to go. So that is one thing that, and I also thought of this, especially in the times of pandemic when children were in the care of parents who had no clue, and also out of the school. School would help in whichever way the school is ready to. So one thing that was very important, that the idea of freedom or the concept of independence, and this is the age when it all starts. So what Kalpana was saying about starting early, I would say that start from preschool if you have not already thought of it. So many things happen in the preschool. So what happens if we share this with the parents? They can't set up a classroom. It costs you some lakhs of rupees. So what you can do, if you can create that atmosphere for the child, wherever the child is learning, you are creating a beautiful foundation for the child. That was the thought behind, and that's my belief also. That if parents are equipped, if they are out of their, see, what I experience, I can do. I have experienced preschool in a certain way. I know that. I think that is right. I didn't enjoy it, but that's the only one I know. But if we are helping the parents to understand, that was the thought behind it. There are many concepts, many principles that we can do at home. Helping children become independent, show how to do it. I am talking about the younger children, but the older children. Now, Mr. Gangadhar can sit with his children and research. The whole family is researching. It's so beautiful, the concept of it is. So depending on the child's age, you can do many things if you have the awareness. That's the thought behind when I said that even without the material. Of course, with material it is complete. There is such a multifaceted development, and even those 3 years is enough. The child doesn't have to go into a Montessori first standard onwards also, which we don't have many in India. Bangalore, we are lucky enough, but other places no. So, because that is the foundation age, like I said, child psychologists speak about the same nature of the child. Only difference is each one is classified in their own way, so understanding it and matching it takes a little time, little effort. But it's so that's the hope, that getting the parents to create that atmosphere of freedom. In the beginning, it's a freedom about which dress to wear.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it's independence about which shoes to wear. But the end result of this is development of willpower, which is very crucial for our life. I have to decide which field I want to go. If my willpower is not strong enough, I'll be jumping from one to another. Of course, there are other things also involved, but the basic requirement of the willpower to say, where does it grow? It grows from 3 to 6 only. In fact, even before that, 2.5 to 6, let me put. Before that, the child is under nature's control. You can't do anything. That's why no schooling. We have now people doing something and all, but there's no education for that age. A child is educable only after 2.5, and that too, the hands and senses. So if we can get the parents to do things, stories, rhymes, all those things you do at home. So that was the thought behind Sparsh Montessori that I had.
If you could just quickly mention one or two practical ways that you have actually advised parents to enhance the child's, this motor memory and using their muscle and this kinesthetic awareness.
Anything you do at home. Okay, and for a very young child, 2.5, we show child how to put down. And when we put down things, anything, it could be a table, it could be a glass on the table, or whatever you want to, we say it should not make any sound. Now, what is this thing? What's there one little sound? No. But the thing is that I need to control my hands, the muscles of my hand to be able to put down. This exercise of practical life will cater to all kinds of movements, especially involving the hands. In fact, legs also. I'm carrying something from here to there. Small children can be engaged in even 2-year-old. You can give them glass plates. Of course, I can't give them 6 plates, but carry one at a time, and they would love to do it. Very often we don't ask me questions. I don't stop. So one of the things about this thing Montessori is we say that one at a time, child needs movement. But as adult, I would rather carry the whole big stack. I can't really carry, but I don't want to go up and down so many times. The child loves it. That's more important. The child needs it. So that in itself covers a lot of development in the child. Your ABCD, your 1 to 10 can be taught later on. That's cognitive. But are you building up that cognitive skills in the child? Is he enjoying doing what he is doing? Even in the movements, if there is a sequence in the movement, it's preparing the child's mind for arithmetic.
Right.
So there is so much there. So I would suggest the language and the movement, like I said, this very young child needs that. Of course, the older children, intellectually, we have to help, and there are various ways and means we can do that.
You had mentioned about the cognitive aspect of development of a child, and that is something that we will return to in some time after we have Malini's input on this question that I think will take us into that side of discussion. Where can you talk a little bit about why is it important to have a holistic development? As we speak about, there's so many different sides, and I could name a few, and I have so many schools of thoughts that have categorized them. But what is the importance of it? And more just lightly touch on what are we doing wrong currently in systems?
So many questions, Ritika, all together.
I think we'll just start with what is the importance.
Okay, the importance for holistic development, right? So we need to first, let's just understand what we define as holistic development, right? So environment that gives children opportunities where their cognitive development, their language development, their motor development, their creative development, socio-emotional, self-help skills, all these things, it has to be developed, right, at this age. And when the school provides this environment for such a thing to happen, the holistic development will happen. And for the child, it is important that all these developments happen. Like Sujata explained, just movement is also creating a logic, a sequence in the brain for the child, right? Which is going to help the child in developing his math skills at a later stage. And we do see that a child who is not able to do sequencing of things, it is a red flag, which means that the child is going to have some issues later on, some learning difficulties maybe. So it is important, all the different things that we are doing now at this stage becomes so important. So it is like readiness. We are kind of creating readiness skills for the children to be able to face grade 1 when they go to grade 1. So that's like, between 3 to 6 years. And also, emotionally also, the adult, that the kind of support that the adult gives in this environment in a very non-judgmental way. Yeah. So if the child is not able to grasp something, how the teacher is very sensitive and very observant, she has to do. And I'm assuming that it is there. So when the teacher is very observant, very sensitive to the child's needs, so what we are talking about personalized learning for the whatever the NEP's new guidelines and whatever would be required for the 21st century skills. So I mean, it is happening in the in this environment in the early childhood years. So the teacher is supposed to be doing those things, and hence it becomes so important for the child. Unfortunately, we are not able to take this forward in the later years in school. Yes, like Sujata mentioned, we do have some Montessori schools, some Waldorf schools in Bangalore. We are lucky. But then, how many children can go to these schools? Most of the children have to, a large population goes to the other schools. So what do we do? So these are very important for the development of the child. How to build on the child's interest. Suppose a child, gets a caterpillar. It did happen in our school, and that's why I'm picking up that example. So, they brought a caterpillar, and suddenly there was so much interest. Everyone wanted to look at that caterpillar. And now the teacher has to be sensitive enough to build on this. I mean, you have maybe in your lesson plan, you have, life cycle of a butterfly, maybe sometime later. But then today the child is looking at the caterpillar, so you have to change that, and you start talking about the life cycle now. So how, I mean, your project based approach, how do you build on the project based on the child's interest? So what is the child doing? Based on that, you build on that. And there are so many opportunities which the children give you, to build on this. So this is how you build the child can have a holistic development, and this is how you can build it in school. And just to very briefly to touch upon the current pandemic situation, where we realized, last year, that school is not going to open even in June. We were hoping, it just like some, what is that, hand, foot, and mouth. We thought that, within 1 week or 2 weeks max, schools will reopen. But then when we saw that nothing of that seemed to be happening, and like in May, we were dumbstruck. What do we do now? School is not going to reopen, and we can't be doing things online because we keep telling parents no screen time, zero screen time for children. And then what are we going to do now? So then somehow we something clicked, and we one of our mentors in one of the groups said that you should be giving some activities for children to do at home. You have to give these activities to the parents, and that's how the spark of homeschooling happened. And we said, okay, why don't we, yes, we do believe in zero screen time, so why don't we build on this? We want the children to have this holistic development, and parents are definitely, I mean, that is the best environment children can have also, in this current situation. So how can we tell parents that they can do some things and this holistic development can continue in the home environment? So like Sujata, I talked about the exercises of practical life, what children can do with their mothers in the kitchen and at home. So building on that, our homeschooling model developed, where we would handhold the parents completely on what to do, from the point where how do you set up your house, what corner of the house, how do you set up the place for the children, to get the feel of a school. We started from there, and we got the support of so many parents. They trusted us, they believed us, and at one point we were telling them, we are training about whatever 40 plus teachers today through this homeschooling thing, and it has been such a wonderful and great experience for our team. This was the first of its kind. I mean, we were the situation demanded it, and we did it. I mean, this was the first time we were doing anything like this. But yeah, I can say quite proudly, and feel so good and happy about it that children were homeschooled, and we got feedback like, my child was so hyper, and he was throwing tantrums. I don't know how to handle him. And then suddenly 2 weeks down the line or 3 weeks down the line says, now he's much better. His tantrums have gone down, and the parent was completely attributing it to the work that she was doing with him. I mean, we hardly had any role to play. It was the parent who was doing the work with the child, but then just having that rhythm, so that was so important for the child, which he was missing out on. And just having that rhythm, said, what do you do in that rhythm? That's where we came into picture, and we told the parents, how do you set up that rhythm? And they did it, and it really helped so many children. They're so happy about that, and that's why those holistic development is so important.
Absolutely. And I think that in the pandemic, one of the themes that I've been seeing a lot in this field is that people have started to train parents, and the parents are now becoming teachers themselves, which I find is such an important aspect. And in the end, I think that's something that we will be getting into. Just to bounce back to Sujata really quickly, what do you think, do you think that right now the systems that are there, especially in the current context, are focusing too much on one aspect of this entire holistic development? Or do you think that that has been changing since the pandemic because of everything that Malini has just spoken about?
I think depends on each individual, whoever is in charge of these things. So whether it is holistic, can we say commonly? Definitely not. I know of people who are sending material, and though I don't know exactly what Malini is doing because I don't know her, but there are people who are sending printables. Parents are cutting it up and doing with the children. There are people who are having online class, showing the activity to the child online. Then there are people who are sending the material with the videos. So there is so much being done that, frankly, I have no clue what is the result. I think we will have to wait out for a few years to really know the impact of what everything is happening, whether it's happening right or not.
Yeah.
Only one thing I would like to say that there is a village school, Montessori school, which they were working and they shut down, and there are no. The network is so bad in the this thing villages that it's you can't really do. Even the higher classes are not doing so well. But then children came back after 1.5 years. One and a half years, children could flow back. A little reminder was necessary, but most of the time, children could flow back into the activities. So, and I think I have full faith in the human mind. So, I think children will be okay, but obviously, things are not been like this for, I think, since Spanish flu, if it was like that. But Spanish flu was also not this situation what we are today. So we'll have to wait and see whether it really helps or it was detrimental. Or personally, I am also caught with, if the child is online, it defeats the whole purpose for me. So
I think that's a very important thing to say. It really brings us back to the present moment, that we are not completely aware and we are trying our best.
Kalpana, older child is fine. Older child, it's
Fine.
I don't like online. Okay, it really my head buzzes. But still, the older child is born into this world, so it is fine. But the younger child needs so much work with his nerves and muscles that you ought not to be giving him. And it's a raw stage of life.
Kalpana, if you have anything to add to this?
So I actually wanted to, I made a couple of points, from building on what Sujata and Malini have so beautifully encapsulated for me. So coming back to just what, Malini spoke about, I wish we had this homeschooling concept when my son was 2 and 3 years old. I really wish so, because he's 22 now. And I'm just going to relate it to what Malini is doing now with, providing this homeschooling, because when Sumer was 10 months, 1 year old, I completely relate with what Sujata says, which is about Montessori. Typically, the schools, it starts at about 3, okay? Ask me, a young parent 22 years ago, what do I do with my child at home? You see, in the earlier days, it was a lot easier to bring up your child. We had siblings at home, we had joint families. So while I do agree that you cannot provide a formal education and schooling to children before the age of 3, that they have boundless energy. Today, you look at facts. We slept. You ask my mother, she'll say, you guys used to sleep for 5-6 hours a day, right? When my son was born 20 years ago, at 10 months, he was not sleeping for so long. He has boundless energy that needs to be channelized. So what should I do where as much as I can provide? So I'm an educator. Yes, exactly like going into the kitchen. I used to sit with Sumer and peeling of boiled potatoes, okay? With the knowledge of my readiness skills, which is most important at that age group, your readiness skills, pre-writing skills, your pre-reading skills. So I remember doing activities with him in the kitchen of peeling boiled potatoes and, plucking pudina for your fine motor skills, okay? I remember he used to respond, he was not talking, but the readiness skills, he was listening to sounds of different transport, auto, bike, helicopter. And I remember picking out picture cards, and then he would listen to the sound and match the picture. Now that in effect is a very important reading readiness skill. Now I was fortunate as an educator, I knew a few of these things and I could do it at home, okay? But still, I'm giving you the context of why I did start with the parent toddler program, which I ran very successfully for 16 years and still goes on. And it is helpful for parents who live in nuclear families, because as much as I can do a lot of these activities at home, I wish I had homeschooling, because while cognitive development and readiness is taking place, learning to share, learning to wait for your turn, these are skills that my child with, in joint families, it was easier. Single child, only my son and me, husband's gone to work, boundless energy, will get into plug points, throw your cell phone and spend that screen time if you do not have the knowledge of what else you can do with your child. Hence the need for a parent toddler, not a school, but what I did run was a parent toddler interaction program, because a lot of parents, young parents, could take that time out, an hour and a half, meaningfully based on attention span, a few activities planned in the motor room for your gross motor skills, fine motor skills, for language development, stories. The more exposure they have to sounds, the more words they will pick up. Labeling, for instance, when they would just come to the environment, your environment is also our third teacher, right? Just labeling a door, okay? Because everything cannot be only phonics, unfortunately, DOOR, but just and if we've seen that impact on children just by seeing the word, the way the word is configured, okay? DOG, the shape is registered, is imprinted in the mind of the child, and very soon we'll be able to recognize the word dog and then also break it up, right? So at that age, I do think if we can, instead of having to wait to go to a school till 3 and not doing anything at all, instead of sitting at home, because you don't know what to do with that child. I'm glad homeschooling has come up. So the pandemic has brought up really good things. But in that context, 20 years ago, I think the parent toddler program was very important, where the mother or the father could come along with the child, go through all these activities which are fun, but we have an aim and objective towards readiness, towards getting your child ready for preschool, towards different domains of development, whether it is sensorial. Yes, you talk about all senses of learning, including walking on sand, for example, sand play. You achieve so many, your kinesthetic learning, your fine motor skills, your emotional development, your catharsis happens even now when we dig into sand. So there is a lot of stimulation that we can provide even to the younger children before they start preschool is a point I did want to reiterate, being a young mother 20 years ago, and given that context. They've spoken a lot. Sujata and Malini have spoken about wonderful things in the early years. Now, if I may, so I took it before the context of early years. Now you adapt the same thing to go to the young adulthood, because that's where also education has to see through. And I spoke about when you talk about the different approaches in Montessori, which is inquiry-based learning, and we do find in today's day and age, we are going back to the role of the family. I am so happy about that, because now parents are being literally forced by the universe to come back. It takes a village to raise a child. Let's do it together. So it's beautiful to train and to work with parents who can work with their children. Somewhere along the line, it just became about sending the children to preschools or schools completely, right? So let's bring back the parent. Let's bring back the environment. We are going back to nature-based learning. We are going back to our guru school values of, like you said, the entire process, whether it comes in the form of play, or you call it inquiry-based learning, or what I would call emergent learning, where the child is your teacher. Actually, the child decides what we should sort of facilitate with them. What level are they at? What is their developmental need? What is their interest? Can we today as educators just churn out, this curriculum and, just like cut, copy, paste? We cannot. We have to understand their needs, their interests in the moment. I may have planned an objective to do a particular class, but yes, incidental, spontaneous learning, aha moments happen like that. So we are going back to all the beautiful things we learned in the context of early years with nature-based learning, with the involvement of the family, with the environment as a third teacher, and so much more. Like all the other educators, I can talk so much more, but I know we are going to be running out of time. So if there are any questions between the early years to the young adulthood in the context of 21st century skills, happy to answer them.
I think this is the perfect place, because especially the role of family now in education. This is where Gangadhar does come in. I'm hoping he's able to add his inputs here, Joey.
Yes, he's online.
Hello. I'm so glad you're online.
Yeah, I will talk without switching on my video. I don't think I have a good one. So I could listen to most part of the other three panelists talking about it, and they are very highly educated in that area, being also instructors and trainers. So I must tell you that I come from a more unorthodox background. I've been designing, I was an engineer. I quit my job and now I'm into full-time travel, and I also into full-time road schooling my kids. So is my wife. So I would like to first clear some of the things about these road schooling, homeschooling, because they're so misleading words. So if anybody thinks that homeschooling is schooling at home in between the four walls and that only parents are the teachers, then I think that it's disastrous. Nobody should do that, I feel. Then when it, what is the, normally homeschooling is used in the context when there is someone who wants to take up a curriculum, some kind of a curriculum, and also look at some certifications. That is what is generally called as homeschooling. There's a different word for people who don't care about certificates like what we are thinking of, and that is called as unschooling usually. And what we are doing unschooling is, what we are doing road schooling is a form of unschooling, where we have chosen travel as a way of inculcating education, values, and whatever we are talking about. So given this, now we have moved to a word called as Jivana Sikshana, which means education for life. So what we say is, see, who are we to say what kind of education is good for children? Every panelist has told that it has to be kid-centric. But what everybody gets confused is we have actually spoken to at least 600 to 900 families during the pandemic, and we have nurtured a lot of parents without having any commercial interest into helping them to pull out of the school with confidence, not just, like with a temporary belief that when school opens, we will go back to school. That is of no use, isn't it? So with that experience, I will tell you that when sometimes we parents tend to become the school, the so-called school. There's nothing wrong with the school, by the way. It is, I know, a very, what do you say, not many people will agree, but when I travel in the Northeast and when I see so many kids, for them becoming mango is their intention of life. They don't care about what God made them, right? At least they want to be a mango. They want to be known as a mango, even if they were born as a banana. So for such people, it is okay. Let them go to normal school. Let them at least get some kind of education that they don't have. But some of us are in a position to be able to analyze and observe our children. And I will quote and re-quote this: observe our children, right? When we observe our children and then we realize that their ways of learning are a certain way, and then we are able to facilitate that more and more by pulling them out of school, then that becomes a very good part of the homeschooling or the unschooling or road schooling, whatever we want to call it, a holistic education. And I would like to believe that the most important thing that is required is time. The parents have their, if at least one parent does not have dedicated time, then it becomes very difficult. So it's okay if one parent is going to go and then earn the bread and the other one has more time. I'm not saying one should not work or one should do all the work. It can be shared, but what is good is if at least one parent can have more time with the kid to observe. Let me give you an example. I have twin daughters, and then we were playing a game of putting a coin into the water. And then I have played this in my younger years. And there will be a coin at the bottom, and we'll see whether this coin lands exactly on that coin. When we were playing that, my daughter got bored and she decided to fill water in a jug and dip a peacock feather in that. And she was observing that, and suddenly she said, "Appa, okay, this peacock feather looks broken," by seeing part of it inside the water and part of it being outside the water. This is refraction, what I have been taught in books. Immediately my engineering mind says, "Oh, okay, this is a good time. Tell her that this is refraction." Thankfully, on that day, I did not say anything. I kept my mouth shut. Then after 5 minutes, she just kept on roaming around, and I am eager and I'm confused that I did not teach her what refraction is. She comes back and says, "Appa, you know what? One more thing I'm observing. Inside the water, it is thicker. The stem of this feather is thicker, but outside this thinner. You know what? I have a magnifying glass. It does exactly this. You want to see what it is?" I nodded sheepish as though I don't know. And she brought me a magnifying glass and then she showed me, "See, this is magnified. And the other part is happening just like that. Outside the magnifying glass, everything is normal, but here it is, everything is magnified." Of course, she didn't use that word. Then I still kept my mouth because magic is happening in her life, right? But as a parent, having all those, my own upbringing, of my own urge that, something important has to happen, or they have to be employable, or if they don't know refraction, how will they answer an interview? How will they get the 2-mark question right? How will they get, all those things are going on in our mind, isn't it? It takes a while for us to let go of those urges. So then I kept quiet, and then I couldn't keep my curiosity. I thought I will also become part of that. Then I said, you know what? When we had magnifying glass, we used to burn paper. So she brought her magnifying glass, and then she did not know that sunlight is required. I had to tell that to her. So I feel that portion I had to facilitate it. But rest all, keeping my mouth shut was actually making wonders happen in our life. And I should learn that actually the magic is happening. She is unschooling, she is road schooling, she is homeschooling, not me, right? So I need to be just a facilitator and ensure that safety is taken care, and whatever she wants to learn, she has to learn. That's it, nothing more or less. So slowly we have mellowed down. We don't have that urge to keep checking whether our children are learning every day. We don't examine them. We don't assess them. We don't even ask them, are you learning? Because now we are convinced that whether we like it or not, they're always learning. Just that as a parent, I don't think that it is learning. Because most of the things that we think, we are all connected to the job. See, I did engineering knowing that I will get a 5-figure or 6-figure salary. So what I did, I went back and saw, okay, to get in this engineering college, what should I do? Oh, I have to write CET. Oh, to write CET, what should I do? I should be in the 95%. To get 95%, okay, here are the 10 question papers from the last year. Okay, this is 2 marks, this is 4 marks, this is 10 marks, this is 6 marks. I read for whatever it is required, and after the exam, it all went outside my brain. But now, after 17 years of working and designing electronics for the defense, I realized that everything that I wanted, I'm learning on need based, and I'm doing a good job. I was doing a good job at my corporate job. Nobody complained that you're not doing a good job. Many of the things, 99% of the things, when I was doing a job, I did not know. I did not definitely study it in the engineering. Only to get a job, I needed all those certificates. So what I would say is, like, if we are able to have this faith that kids will learn, and they will learn it on a need to basis. How many of us are using calculus? How many of us are using trigonometry? Basic arithmetic is what is required in your life, and that also we have the so-called educated, we have lost the basic addition, multiplication, subtraction, and the person who is sitting and selling fruits without any education is able to do it without a calculator, isn't it? Right? So when we put all these things together, I say that in our case, what we realized is travel. Even if I want to inculcate certain kind of qualities, and since we started very young with our children, we decided that until 10 years, what our kids need to know is basic humanity, kindness, respect for others, treating others equally, listening without judgment, and things like eating properly, taking care of themselves, breathing properly. How many of us, even if you increase our lung capacity by 5%, wonders will happen in our life, isn't it? Instead of teaching all those things, if I use those precious years teaching science and maths, which means nothing to them at that time, because it's all theory at that time. When they want to know that they have to design something, and then they want to know that, okay, what's the maths behind it? They will learn it because they want to learn at that time, right? So on a need to basis, I feel they can learn. And there are many instances that I can tell you. So we have decided upon experiential learning. Okay, so for example, instead of learning that water cycle happens like this, like clouds happen and then then it comes down as rain and then it goes into the sea and then comes up as cloud. Instead, in Chirapunji, the wettest place on earth, my kids just sit there and then they keep looking at it and they tell me, Appa, here the cloud is coming up. Here they are merging. Here they are changing the colors. Now it is pouring. Okay, and then see, I can see the water going down. And if it is a clear day in Bangladesh, 10-kilometer visibility, we can actually see it going into the plains, right? So what this happens is, it's like learning a bicycle. They will never forget what water cycle is. But we will not teach them that is water cycle. Why? Because in this 21st century, if a kid sees something in YouTube, they think they are the masters of it. Whereas the intention of education is to make the child feel that they are nothing in this universe, which I learned at 40 years. When I came out of engineering, I thought I'm great. And when I designed the first electronic chip, I thought I'm the greatest, right? So it doesn't take till 40 years to figure out that we are nothing in this universe. And by not teaching these terms, by not teaching these things, making them feel that they know something, but they're in the awe of travel. They're in the awe of nature. Such huge towering mountains, snow-capped mountains, rivers that will just take you away in 1 second and make you nothing. When kids feel all these things, when they're very young ages, and it is a misconception that many people think that, especially in India, that kids do not understand what is travel and they will not remember anything. This is a very common misconception, but it is not true. In our case, we have traveled from the time we are six, the kids have been 6 months, and we have seen even changes in smell, even the change in the daylight time. The sun rises early and then the sun sets early. Kids notice all these things, right? The language changes, the smell changes, so many things changes, and we were amazed by the way education used to happen to our children. And then we thought any school, or even as we as parents, will not be able to give all these things. So we decided to pull them out of school, and now we are very happy road schooling them. Now that they are going to 10 and 11 years now we feel that we have to enable them to some kind of skills that will help them in earning a livelihood in future. And when I say livelihood in future, see, before I quit my job and my responsibility to earn a living had become my life. I had no life outside of that, no time, just to earn money. That's it. So, what I thought first is if I keep having the same life in front of my kids and they learn by example, they don't learn by the gyan that I give them, isn't it? So, there is no point. My kids will only learn what I am doing. So first I transformed my life and I figured out what I want to do in life, what is my inner calling, and my wife also supported a lot. In fact, she's the one who said quit your job. And after 1 year of me quitting job and taking people to Northeast and helping other families travel a lot, then I was convinced that I am leading the right life that I am supposed to live, and I don't need to teach anything to my kids because I'm living a good life myself. They will automatically get it. Then in a year, my wife also quit her job. She has been teaching in various methodologies like Waldorf, IGCSE, and all that for 11 years. So she also quit her job. And what can I say? That life has been very nice, and our kids are doing very well in life. You know, we do a lot of rock climbing, camping, overnight camping. We visit a lot of places. We have a lot of family friends throughout the Northeast in Manipur, Nagaland, Assam. You name the state, and it's been a very holistic learning. That's what I would say. Thank you, and I'm happy that I did not get disconnected in between.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
And I'm so happy as well. I think you really touched a soft spot in my heart, and at so many points I just wanted to cry. I think we'll end this curated questions round with just looking into the future. So Gangadhar, I would like to start with you. What is your advice to parents? What is the advice that you generally give to those looking to unschool or to road school?
All right. So what I have learned is what works for us is if we share our experiences and what is happening for us, it becomes very meaningful to others. I feel very difficult to tell others what they should do because each one's journey is very different, isn't it? So what we have right now, what we do is we share what kind of schooling or education and life that we want to lead. So even on this forum also, I would like to do like that. And what we have done right now is since our kids are turning 11, we have told them one thing: do whatever you want to do, but it has to be to your best. Okay, it's okay. You just do one thing in a day. You don't do anything in a day, that's also fine. Okay, but not doing anything in that day also. Ensure that you're doing it to the best way, right? And they should have this inner confidence, or what do you say, listening to that inner voice, because many of us, including me and my wife, we have always been taught that there is something better. Okay, tomorrow you can be a better person. Okay, you do this and then you will get this. We want our kids to not be like that. Yeah, that is also required, but to a certain extent. So what we have told them now is first earn the respect of the society. Okay, don't think about when they're learning these skills. It should not be like I'm going to get this degree and then I'm going to get this job, then I'm going to have a $2 million salary. No. Okay, so the kind of goals that we have set to them is first you earn the respect of the society. And how will they earn the respect of the society is by being useful to the society. I'll give you an example. For example, I take a lot of families for rock climbing and overnight camping. in and around Hyderabad. So when we go there, they don't get any money, all right? But they teach other kids how to actually pitch a tent, how to use a head torch, how to roll back a tent, right? Or while rock climbing, they show by example what is the right method to climb certain rocks with certain techniques, or how to use certain climbing gears, equipment. So once they gain the respect of the society, that they are doing something for the society, we believe that automatically money will flow. Otherwise, if they become money centric, then I don't think we are doing the right thing, because everything is around money these days, including education. So I won't blame only education. I think everybody is, the money has become the centric part of life. And many of us at least I am 47 now. So at this age, we don't know how much money we need in the retirement. So we are constantly earning money. So we also decided that in our life, Ramya and I, we will do only meaningful things. Whether money is there or not, we don't worry about that. For example, I take a lot of families to Meghalaya and places like that. Even tomorrow, I have 8 families who are going to come to Guwahati, and then I'm going to take them for a week. But we do not offer this package to every family. If I feel that there is a family who can do travel on their own, then it is okay. We don't want to make money from them, right? It's if they are ready to do some planning on their own, figure out the stays on their own and all that, then our information is free of cost. So we do not have a website. We do not have YouTube. We don't blog, right? So because all these things, what they do is they are good for making an impact, a very peripheral impact on 1 million people. 1 million people we have seen whenever we have been on media, TV, on the paper and all that, people will clap for us, but there is no impact happening on the society, right? So we moved away from all that. So we create some WhatsApp groups, and there we curate our families. We nurture them for certain kind of travel, and my WhatsApp status will be the one which will be our advertisement, and we don't spend any money on advertising. Our own travel is our advertisement, and in 24 hours it is gone. So it forces us to live a new life and an exciting life every 24 hours. So there is no proof that we did something in Meghalaya yesterday. Tomorrow you have to do a new thing to inspire people. So that way we are always on the toes. So I would say this is a message that I would like to give to the parents. Don't be afraid of what's going to come next. Okay, first let us live a good life. Okay, let us show the path for our children by living a good life. My parents 20 years ago did not tell me anything. They just lived a good life. And that's how I am able to get all this confidence, right? By seeing my parents, not by the gyan that they gave. So I would say this is a message that I want to end with, and thanks for the opportunity.
I think that's a beautiful thing to say to a lot of people, and especially after having opened our minds to this new side of education. I would like to end lastly with Kalpana, if we could get your views on, especially as an advisor to the government and as a parent, what is the advice that you would give parents if they choose, when they choose a school for their child? And also, if we could end with what you envision for the future of education.
So I'm going to take this opportunity to just encapsulate. We've spoken about the early years, but I'm also trying to show you, young adulthood and teenagers, and when they move out through the process of education. No matter what approach you choose, what I think is important is our sincere endeavor, like you say, as educators, to provide that warm, nurturing, stimulating environment based on fun, experience, inquiry, which could be inculcated through various approaches. But it is the process that is important towards the goals. It is the acquisition of knowledge that is equally important as the acquisition of skills. We need to find that balance so that we are in alignment with what is expected, but yet not forget that it's the journey, it's the process that's important. There needs to be an alignment. Lastly, I'm just going to make it quick. While we focus on, not just the early years, but when you take that education forward, while the acquisition of theory is very important to understand concepts, it is also important to understand the application of the same, right? Which is what schools are looking at. So when we used to talk about the multidisciplinary approach, interdisciplinary approach. Then you heard about terms like multidisciplinary approach, Currently, as we speak, there is something called the transdisciplinary approach, where let's say we pick on a concept, and does not necessarily have to be subject-based learning or divide it into different slots. It's the process of education, but the concept or the central theme that we are trying to get the children to learn is across all domains. So whether it is in the physical aspect, whether it is in the mathematic classroom, that approach follows through. Okay, so the balance between all of this is very important. And lastly, the balance and finding the alignment between planning and designing of the curriculum based on the needs, backward design, coupled with a cycle of assessment. Today we talk about, would like to introduce this term for people who are exploring and understand international education or education in the global context. There are three forms of assessment. There are three purposes of assessment. It is not, I agree with Mr. Gangadhar, assessment is not about grading and ranking and evaluating our students. But the new age concept is assessment for learning, of learning, and as learning. Very quickly, what do I mean? Assessment of learning is to understand what levels my child is at in terms of acquisition of knowledge and skills. Assessment for learning is for us teachers. We assess so that then we can decide what next we want to do with the children. Assessment for learning. And then there is assessment as learning, which is the beautiful approach that we use today, which is the process of inquiry, your project-based learning. All of this where we learn as the students ask questions and evaluate their own learning. So there has to be an alignment between curriculum design, curriculum execution, assessment, and it all feeds into the system. I think that's what we are looking at going forward. I hope I've been able to quickly touch upon a couple of important concepts.
I truly believe that for this panel discussion, we are going to need to have a part 2 because there's so much more to get into, and I think that we've touched one surface and there's so many more perspectives to get into. With that said, let's go to the next round. Let's quickly do this round, and these are really quick rounds. Be on our toes, we'll keep ourselves muted. Gangadhar, I think you could unmute yourself and say agree, disagree. That would help for this round, since you can't indicate with your hands. Yeah. All right, let's get to it. You have to indicate whether you agree or disagree with your palms. You can say this is agree, this is disagree. I will say the questions out. First question, children can be trusted to know how they like to learn. Agree, disagree. And everyone else can please comment in the chat box what you feel about the questions. Agree. Gangadhar?
Sorry, the audio is not clear. Please move ahead, please. When I can hear, I'll answer.
Self-learning as a concept is best suited for adults, not children. Amazing. Emotional intelligence doesn't get enough attention in school. Pretty unanimous. To bring out a child's potential, you have to push them beyond their comfort zone. Interesting. Teaching is ineffective in a large batch of children. So you have a large batch. Interesting. Alternative education doesn't adequately prepare children for the modern workforce, and we did touch upon this earlier. Online learning dulls a child's creativity, intelligence, and social skills. I myself have opinions on that. There's a huge gap between our education system and the jobs available, especially in the modern context with Kalpana, what you brought up. There's a huge gap. Wow. That's why we need a part 2. Our schooling system robs us of our critical thinking skills. Agree. Me too, I am a little bit. Next, we'll move on to the lightning round. One way, you can keep yourselves unmuted for this, and we'll just quickly answer the questions. Whatever comes to your mind first. One way that we can ensure balance, work balance, and adequate time for our children.
Keep away the phone.
Lovely.
That will help a lot.
Yes.
Or the laptop or screen. Okay.
Yes.
May I say more? Or I just speak up.
Anybody else?
Is this directed at everyone? Are we all supposed to?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
everybody.
so I would say just learn with your child. Just keep a few minutes. It's cathartic, it's fun, it's learning with the child, so you can find that balance. And I was blessed because, like I said, I'm one of those who's planned my journey professionally as well as my personal growth with. I've been fortunate with the journey of my child, so I think there's never the right time to do anything. We're always busy, so.
I agree with that. I love that. Malini?
I would agree with keeping the phone away and being completely with the child. You look at the child and speak to your child, not looking at your phone while even while you're walking with your child, because it's so important that you're completely, whatever you're doing, do it 100%.
All right, we move to the next question. What is your go-to method to calm an overwhelmed child?
I'd say transition activities, voice modulation, and tone of voice. Taking a deep breath myself, calming down, that's the mood, that's the child is going to reflect, and you can change it by shifting your own mood.
Lovely.
Perfect. I mean, it depends. What Kalpana is saying is like perfect. And it actually depends on what has overwhelmed the child. If it is, suppose it's an activity which has overwhelmed the child, if it's too challenging, then what we do is like we break it down into smaller chunks so that, the child doesn't feel so overwhelmed at all after that. Okay, I'm sitting with you. Okay, let's do it together. And, I break it down. If it's a puzzle, if there are 7 pieces, start with only one piece. All the other pieces are stuck there. Only one piece you have to remove, put it back. And then from 1 piece to 2 piece to 3 piece, and it just, and like, they feel so good when they see that, oh, all the 7 pieces now I'm able to do on my own. So it depends on the activity or at what stage they are feeling overwhelmed. Yeah.
That's something I do with myself as well.
Yeah, I think being in that calm space is vital for parents because somebody has to be calm. And I think holding the child and allowing that expression, it need not be a young child I'm talking about, even the older ones, your teenagers and all, giving that space for expression.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that calmness helps me as a parent how to deal with it.
Wow, that's beautiful.
They take on our energy completely.
Yes, I agree.
Gangadhar, if there's any point you want to ask, then just right in. The lightning round is all about interjecting and speaking over each other. Then related question, what is one way that embracing your divine feminine aspect has helped your child's development? Very similar to the previous question.
I think giving the child the space. Okay, sorry, Kalpana wanted.
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead. I'll go next.
Giving the child the space to
Yeah, my
answer to whatever.
Yeah, my answer is also the same. I mean, if you have enough compassion, you will naturally, allow that space to happen.
So along with both those points, I'd say that the entire journey of embracing your own feminine and taking a look, the entire awareness, the process of that, where it takes you back to your own growing up years, okay, where we've imbibed so much from our parents and our mothers. So I think just the awareness of the qualities that I perhaps do not want to be and become aware of what is it that I want to be helps me, be a better feminine mother in that context with my own child. As you work on yourself, that would be one of your questions. As you work on yourself and your own patterns, there's a very interesting concept with children. We always call it's called the repetition compulsion, right? Logic tells you that in terms of behavioral psychology, this is what we talk. Logic tells you, for example, when I work with battered children, that battered children, adults who are battered as children will not abuse their children. You'd be amazed to see when you work with battered children and you go back to family history, their parents have been battered as children themselves, right? So basically, whatever work you do with your own being and the qualities you imbibe, that you seek to imbibe in your own self, is what your child will also take on. So if we heal ourselves, we heal our children, and so many more lifetimes and generations.
Yes, absolutely.
That's beautiful. Last question for the lightning round. What is your go-to self-care habit?
For me, it's breath work. Tuning in with my breath. So from all, when my son, since we're speaking about kids, my son used to always say, you want to be in control of everything. And over the years, how I've learned, my greatest learning with the feminine, the divine feminine quality, it's been about surrender, letting go of my need to understand things, letting go of my need to define things, to control things for my own being, right? So when you talk about letting go, it's very important given this.
That's beautiful.
Go ahead. You had something to say, then I'll complete. Go ahead.
Yes, Malini.
Okay. No, I said it's beautiful. What Kalpana is saying about surrender and let go. That's
So coming back to my go-to practice being breath work, I've realized that when there is an emotional trigger or a pattern that you're stuck with, you can actually tune into your body, because your body never lies. And pain, one of my very dear teachers always says, pain is nothing but pay attention in now. What story is it telling you? Okay, so when you work, it's a beautiful cycle. When you work on your emotions and letting go, you actually release. I have this chronic shoulder issue, which is releasing now. So what's surfacing? And vice versa. So your body is telling you what to, as your core, for example, gets stronger, you'll find that you're decisive. So you can work at your physical level to sort of align and tweak your emotions, and you can also use your emotions to get your physical strength. It's a beautiful cycle. So the only thing I can't even control is my own breath. So what are we going to control anything in life? So my go-to practice is breath work, and it just grounds me and tells me just be in the moment. Let it go, surrender. That's it.
All the words that you said are everything that I am about. But I'm going to contain that excitement.
Yes.
Yes, go to self-care.
Mine is more mundane. But it was beautiful what Kalpana said and what is true also. But a coffee out in nature.
Wow.
So me time, just nothing here. That again, breath work or meditation or something. But when I'm there in the nature and with my cup of coffee, it does the meditation, work of meditation, I should say.
Yes.
The coffee does it.
Or tea. Let's do that. One coffee morning and chai morning together.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel instantly very calm.
Yeah, for me, it's more of healthy eating, yoga, exercise, the mundane things again.
Mundane, that's my everyday life.
Breathing is tough work. Becoming aware of your breath is very tough work.
That's why I did not opt for meditation or breathing or
all my life. I thought, I got it right, gymming and exercising. And now I realize as I'm touching 50, I'm only going slower and slower and slower into our practice and just work.
Practice. Yes.
With the breath, with
That's wonderful.
the
That's
sounds. And of course, we have wonderful people here. All my teachers are here. Ray's here. All you lovely women are here. My this tribe that we've created to support each other, to empower each other, to encourage each other, to fill in even the gaps. I won't say only all, we all have our weaknesses, but we fill it in, we plug it in. So this beautiful, the Ubuntu concept that I put out for all of you today, it's literally together we can. Yeah. So I'm going to let you take over on that note.
That is a beautiful note.
Yeah.
To move on to our host Joey to take us into the Q&As, and we will be moving slightly over time today, but we do need to conclude today with our Q&A. Joanna, take the stage.
Hello again. I'm here with the questions our audience have asked. This question is for Sujata. As eye-opening and enriching as the experience is for young children, the transition to a conventional school can be confusing. Any thoughts on this?
Yes, 15 years of my training, I had to answer this. We are adaptable, okay? And we as human beings are adaptable. And any change, even if I have a conventional school, I go to conventional school and I move to first standard, there is a transition there. The style is different, number of children, everything changes. So it is a tough time for the child, that transition. This child can do it, provided the parents hold that space for the child. I have heard stories from parents where I consult in different schools. So small schools, and after Montessori, you go to first standard to a bigger school and all that. So this child went and told Amma, this teacher doesn't even respond to me. And I said, teacher complained that this child doesn't say good morning. So the mother asked the child why. Said she doesn't, when I say good morning, she doesn't answer. So I stopped saying. There's a story of another child where the mother was worried about this transition because the child was facing difficulty. But then the child said, Amma, it's okay, I will manage. That's why it's important to have those 3 years in the Montessori. There is a certain development and growth that happens. 80% of your personality is formed in the first 6 years. Or some may stretch it to 8 years, but most of it is done. So you are a personality there, you are a person who is entering into. Do I like to move from Bangalore to Delhi? You hear of a transfer? We don't like it, right? I will not like it, but if he has an ear, Amma is understanding, Appa is listening, that's what it needs. Smoother transition then.
Absolutely. I agree with you. To adapt is to...
It's human speciality.
Yes.
And Montessori child, I'm not boasting, it's a fact that this child is more adaptable because his thinking skills have developed in the Montessori, being in the environment. So when you speak to the child about the logic and why it has to happen, child accepts. And once I understand, it's easier for me to. Child is not a Buddhuram or anything. Child understands much more than we think the child does. Children do transition quite easily. I'm not saying it's painless, but it's worth those 3 years in the Montessori, let me tell you, to have that child in the Montessori for 3 years. This transition pain is very little compared to that benefit the child gets.
Thank you for that. The next question is for Kalpana. Are there any new age frameworks for adult education?
Did you mean adult education or children education?
Adult education.
Are there new frameworks for adult education in the context of early years education, in the context of teachers, or just for adult education?
Just for adult education.
Just for adult-based education, just like when we're talking about children, we talk about empowering more in terms of skill-based learning. So whether it is depending on what is the aspect that you're looking at working in, whether it is personally or professionally or academically, it is definitely, again, a goal and a process. So there are so many forms that one can explore, but largely what seems to be popular with adult education is to empower. You see, we've spoken about early years a lot. We've spoken about urban education and international education a lot, where people can afford it. Okay, what about understanding that a very large percent is still
Not.
a rural population, and they just need to be empowered to make a livelihood? So soft skills training in terms of empowering them to, whether it's a skill of embroidery or whether it is a skill of just making tea, it's these skills that form the basis of such education, because they are not going to relate to your application of knowledge in that context and progressive education. They need to survive. Okay, so we've got to give them that treatment, I'm saying, that kind of education that is going to empower them to survive. Let's talk reality here. Okay, while we're talking about such beautiful concepts of education that have mushroomed up, progressive education, emergent education, experiential education, schooling, unschooling, online, so much. But at the end of the day, when we work together to empower our youth for the workforce, we also have to consider that we need to train them in the skills that's going to provide them livelihood at some point in time. We work with, with the government, we work with Anganwadis and Balwadis. They don't even have access, like we spoke about, they don't even have access to online right now. So what are we going to do in the pandemic situation is we're actually working with groups of people who are just going there to teach them, and not to teach them, but to facilitate learning. I don't even like using the word teach, but to facilitate, learning in terms of helping them with survival. Because what are they going to do with so much livelihood forms gone with the pandemic? Laborers are sitting at home. Everyone's gone back home. These children need to support a living. So hence the concepts of farming, harvesting, all of this is coming up. So we need to also shift our approach from just creating subject-based learning and theory to what is actually required today.
Absolutely. That was very insightful. Thank you for that. The next question is for Malini. This is a long one. Can we say that we are all trying to do with all the different methodologies and pedagogies of learning is create an environment for the child to learn in the most natural way possible? Learning is ingrained in our biology the way it is in any other creature in nature. Like butterflies have no parent supervision, they evolve to be butterflies all on their own and live a life in the short lifespan they have.
Jana, can you just repeat the first part because I missed some of the words in that?
Yes. Can we say that what we are all trying to do with all the different methodologies of learning is create an environment for the child to learn in the most natural way possible?
Yes, I agree. I mean, that's what Gangadhar has been doing, right, with his kids. And we also try to do that to the extent possible in our environments too. So, yeah, so the person who's asked the question has got it right, that, we have to, the end of the day, what is our goal? To provide a very natural environment, a good environment where children can learn on their own. So it doesn't really matter what name you give, whether you say Montessori or Waldorf or Piaget or whatever, it doesn't really matter. I mean, Gangadhar kids are learning everything, I mean, without any name, right? So you don't need a name. So this is just, for us to get some framework. And I didn't have any idea about education when I was in advertising for 10 years. So how do I begin my steps into education? And that's why I need that framework. But for learning to happen, it can just happen in the most natural way.
Thank you. This question is open-ended. It would be great if Gangadhar answered this first. What are 3 essential skills we need to teach our children if they are to become leaders of change in the world?
Okay, I'll try. But I don't see three essential skills to become leaders of the world.
Absolutely.
I would say first, try to figure out whether your kid wants to become the leader of the world or not. Not every kid wants to be that. Right? So if we go with this thought that being the leader of the world is good for everybody, then we are making a mistake, isn't it? We are becoming the school, the conventional school. That is number one, I would say. And in case your kid wants to be that, then I would say just simply observe. Don't be in the urge to make them a leader because you can't make it. Right? You can only facilitate. If there is something inside, for example, I thought once, since one of my kids is creative, Ananya is creative and she draws beautifully, and I asked somebody who's a very good artist, and then she said, don't put her in any class because you know that she is not structured. Okay, she said, you'll be doing the greatest justice by putting your thought. If there is an artist inside her, it will come out one day. Just wait for those things and you just give the artistic materials that is required for her. Don't even teach her how to draw. Don't even teach her how to paint, right? If there is something inside, the seed will grow. So I would say the minimal intervention from us. And I would say instead of saying three things that we should teach the child, there should be some three things that we should teach ourselves as a parents. Is to first let go of that thought, okay, that leaders are required. Not everybody wants to follow, not everybody wants to be a leader. So I would say we have to teach ourselves to let go of all these things and just observe the child. That one thing is enough. When you observe and when you know the magical ways that in which your kids are learning, and when you unlock those things, whatever kind of education, you give it any name, it will become effortless. You will feel like you are doing nothing and the kid is doing everything, and that's the way it should be, isn't it? Otherwise, it becomes a very stressful life for us.
May I please add on to
Yes,
that?
this is for all of
Okay.
you panelists.
Okay, so I view, when you ask me the question about leadership, I view it in the context more of not just a leader as a noun, a person, but leadership skills, which basically involve, taking initiative and things like that, which is a very important part of a child's education and learning. So, for example, last year, pre-COVID, I was at the NACI conference in LA, and my paper presentation for 1 hour at the World Forum, National Association for Early Young Children, was about the use of superhero play in bringing forth leadership development in children. So while I'm not talking about creating leaders, I think it's extremely important for cultivating leadership skills. So for example, I would think empathy, communication, collaboration are extremely important qualities in terms of bringing forth leadership skills. And you don't have to, we're not talking about the conventional Simon Says kind of leader or a follower. We're talking about everybody bringing out, empowering children to bring out the best and their highest potential in them, right? So they are only working with themselves at their own pace. That's, I think, very, very important in the context of education, leadership skill development.
Malini, Sujata, any answers?
Not really. I think only thing I would say is the help develop the willpower by giving the child choices and decision to reach a decision is. But it was very interesting to listen to both Kalpana and Gangadhar, because it brought out the leadership, the word leadership, much more clearly for me. And both are right. That's the beauty of the whole thing. It was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. So in that context, if I may just add one last thing, when we were talking about whether it's leaders or adult education, because you asked me both, a very important quality or a skill that we want to, inculcate through doing it ourselves, like Mr. Gangadhar says, we've got to follow it ourselves, is sensitivity, compassion, empathy, our EQ skills, right? Which are so important. in that context, today, education, right from the earliest through adult education, another form is also bringing sensitivity to environment and sustainable developmental goals, right? So when I was talking about vocational training and empowering children to be able to be ready for the workforce, along with all of that, I think sensitivity, global sensitivity, and I'm not using Miss India language, global sensitivity and global awareness, but it is important. Citizenship is one of the most important 6 C's. Citizenship, a sense of belonging, community, the world as one, that kind of a feeling is driving the process of education forward.
That will come from experience also.
Yeah,
Till the child has that experience of that wilderness or that difficulty somebody is having in their daily life. And yeah, I think
they're seeing it. What better time than the pandemic? They're seeing it around. The world is shifting, and our children are also they're witnessing it. They're sensing it. We will definitely see it through, but it's happening. Shifts are happening.
You have broken the myth of leaders for me. Thank you for that. And now we're on the last question. This is a personal favorite, and it's open-ended, so all panelists answer this. Carl Jung said, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents." What is your advice to parents so they can ease this burden of their child?
Carl Jung, my favorite. As I do shadow work, I'm still in the process, embracing the shadows, embracing the parts of me that are not so nice, that are nice, accepting. So yes, as we embrace different parts of us, like I said, and heal our own being, we can and try and ensure that we don't repeat the same patterns of things that were done to us, and learn from it, and be more aware and conscious as parents. Forget about parents, as human beings, as feminine women. As women, we are always, at least that's a challenge that I had, defined by our roles. I was a daughter, I was now I'm a sister, now I'm a wife, now I'm a mother, a daughter-in-law, there's so many, we're just caught in all of those roles. And then finally, yes, you've got to actually deal with your own being, because all of those parts are you and the essence of you, right? So as we deal with all the baggage, the wonderful and there's so much to be grateful for from our childhood, but everything, you go back to any psychologist, they'll all talk about everything goes back to your childhood, whether it's Sigmund Freud who takes it to an extreme, or you have, let's not get into that, or you have Carl Jung, or you have Adler who talks about, you have conditioning, Pavlov, everything goes back to your childhood, right? So awareness of our own beings will help us in healing ourselves and probably, hopefully, in conscious parenting as well. Yeah. That's what I have to say.
Any other panelists?
I completely agree with Kalpana on this, that healing yourself is so important. And we give so little importance to it. We are not even aware of it. The me time that we need to give and heal ourselves, because we are always running from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep. We just want to keep working, multitasking all the time, and just get the monkeys off our back. That's all that we are aiming for from the time we get up till the time we go to sleep. But yes, we need to take time out to heal ourselves. That's so perfectly said by Kalpana. I 200% agree with it.
Somewhere along the line, we've just become the doers. We're not human beings anymore. When were the we tried, right, with some of the sessions that just be. We're not beings, we're just doings. Like you said, from morning to night, we're just doing. I think we should call ourselves just doings. Yeah. But there's hope. Let's try and just be and go with the flow. And yes, the doing is important as well, but it can be conscious action, right? So yeah, that's important.
That's what we're all about in 9 Nights of the Goddess and Mahanavratri. It's such a beautiful space to even talk about this. Does that bring us to the end, or was Sujata or
Yes,
to add
yeah.
something?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
All right. Thank you, panelists, for those insightful answers. I'm in awe of all of you, and I'm honestly looking forward to have one-on-one discussions with you all. Thank you. Over to you, Ritika.
Thank you, Joey. And thank you, everyone, for the questions. This brings us to the end, but the opening of an opportunity of a lot of personal interviews, more panel discussions, and so much more on our YouTube channel. I would like to end with something, quoting my own mentor, my own guru, just to end this section for today. I would like to read that out. Give me a second. Yeah. Unless the teacher is respected, raised to a position that is even above God, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, this cycle will not break. No amount of tinkering, patching, or modifications will change anything. It is time to rebuild the system from the ground up with the teacher at the center. And I think it's just fitting that this is from my own mentor. Thank you so much, panelists, for coming onto this conversation. It was an honor. It was a true honor. From here on, everything has changed for a lot of people. We've been opened up to so many different perspectives. And thank you for the participants for joining us and helping us make this possible. Together, through Mahanavratri, we're able to create something so impactful. And for everyone watching on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, and comment what you think, because it's so important to keep this going. It's us creating this recording right now, and it's you who will keep the conversation going forward. We will reach out to you if we want to have an interaction with you, if we think that your comment is interesting, if we think that you can add value to the world and create an impact, which is all we're doing at Unalome Project. Thank you so much, panelists. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I cannot
Thank you so much,
enough.
Ritika.
Thank you. The guru in me bows to the guru in you. Everyone is my teacher. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.